Gang, we're talking right now with Robby T. JJG?
Yeah. That's what it says when I play bingo.
JJG? And we're talking about how most of the world says realtor. And we say
Realtor.
Now, I'll be honest. If you say it wrong, I really don't care. Okay? But there are some realtors out there who, when you say realtor, they get all up in the frustration bucket.
Straight triggered.
Yeah, totally triggered. Of all the things in this world, I have a friend who forever will just call me Eric. Eric. Like, last I checked, my name's Eric. Okay? Robby was once hosting a conference with me, and a guy sits him down. And Robby's always been Robby. Never Roberts, never Rob, never Bobby. Yep. And he just sits there and he goes, Robby T. Right. And calls him Robby T. So I now forever will call him Robby T. You can call me a realtor. I really don't care what it is. But we are here at KFGO, the Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM, and we're recording our radio show. We record a little bit early, and then we put it on the internets for you and get it out there. And Robby T, Robby T is my guest here today, who is both a realtor and a realtor.
Yep, and you are Eric.
Eric, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, forever Eric. So we're giving you the inside skinny, the peek behind the curtain as to what happens before we actually record. JJ, any advice for the listening audience?
I do. If you're worried about how to pronounce realtor as realtor, think of Hulk Hogan, because he really tore those shirts.
Ooh. Wow.
So it's the Hulk Hogan effect.
Wow.
You're welcome. Take that to the bank.
Maybe a new
Wow.
You really
Realtor.
Don't say realtor.
Realtor. Please.
First, if someone's like, I need someone to sell my house, say like, okay, Hulk Hogan principle. And then be like, he really tore. You need a realtor. And then if they're still there and they haven't left because they thought you were having a stroke, you can pronounce it the correct way.
I don't know about you, but this is like Michael Scott's name.
That's what's going on.
Fatty, Frank. Yes. It's perfect. Okay, we're actually going to record. We're just going to wait after this. You're good. Gang, it's a weird day in studio because my brother from another mother, Robby T, is here joining us. Robby, you're a realtor, but you're kind of not a realtor. Walk us through like the world that you live in now, because your last decade of career paths have led you on a wild journey to where you are now.
Yeah, so I've sold one home. Let's start there. And
congrats.
I know, I appreciate it. You know what? Well, and I learned I never want to do it again. So that's where I first started in this game. I was an ISA with you. You hired me.
Yeah, and what's an ISA?
ISA, inside sales agent. So my whole job was to have a conversation where with leads, with the people that are coming to the websites, maybe people that hear us on the radio, go to our website and look at some homes.
You're the first point of contact for people that traditionally reach out.
100%. The first line of defense, I guess you could say. Or,
sure.
Yep, whatever you want to view it as. And did that for about 2.5, 3 years. And then started and moved into the coaching world. And that's what I do every single day now, is I get to connect with, coach, train people all throughout the country. So every single day, that's what I do. Is I rarely leave my house. But today is one of those days, so I'm really excited.
Well, welcome to the outside world, buddy.
It's weird every time I wander out here. It's crazy.
Robby, we've been partners in Hatch Coaching for about 7 years now, and I don't think that most of the world knows. I mean, if you're a person that listens to the radio, you know us as realtors.
Yep.
But Robby, you're the top lead conversion coach in the country for 2 million realtors. And we've been doing this. I keep saying realtors. I'm just emphasizing it now. We've been doing this for 7 years now, and you've mastered this skill set. Yeah. So, what does a day in the life of a real estate coach look like?
Lots of Zoom calls.
Yep.
Let's start there. Lots of webinars, which take place on Zoom. It's what's been really cool in the shift since 2020 is so much of what I do every single day is to groups of people or online. So I literally go from, some people go from meeting to meeting to meeting in person. I go from meeting to meeting in Zoom conferences over and over and over again. And I coach and train people from all across was going to say the world. We're not quite there yet.
We got some Canadians,
We
so
got some
we're
Canadians.
international now, like the Hector International Airport because they flew to Winnipeg once.
Exactly, 100%. Yep. We got the and all over the country is probably a better way to put it. People in Alaska, California, New York, you name it, we got people that we're helping.
Thank you for explaining what all over the country means.
Thank you for the chirp. I appreciate it.
I'm here for it. And Robby, you have mastered lead conversion for real estate agents and helping them to understand the mindset of the consumer, buyers and sellers. Come at us or we go at them, and there are limited amounts of information that they give. There's this psyche and this approach that we really struggle with from time to time. And I'd love for you to give some insight to people that are listening on how you're coaching people and maybe what consumers actually think about us in the real estate world.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I've really learned when we go through this whole process is people, consumers, buyers and sellers are typically afraid of salespeople. When we look at the words that people use to describe a traditional salesperson, it is icky, gross, manipulative as the key words. And
most salespeople have scripts, right? They have the fastest way to persuade you to do what I want you to do.
And then on top of that, I think most salespeople are so dependent and attached to the outcome. They are, craving that next paycheck. And if there's one thing that I've really taught people throughout the country, is probably centered around three different things. One is there's that old school mantra from back in the day, always be closing, from
Glenn Ross.
And then the boiler room and, others. And I really simply believe always be curious, connecting, and collaborating.
ABCCC.
ABCCC, exactly. Gave a whole TED Talk at NDSU. God, that was a while ago now.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
There's a funny story about that we can tell some other day. But that was the first piece. The second big thing is to really let go of the attachment. And the big reason for that as salespeople is it discolors the way you see everything when you're so attached to the outcome. So letting go of that is such a big piece that we have to really train people to mentally do, so they hear your truth as a truth as opposed to being discolored with, oh, they said they're thinking about doing something and pushing towards a close. But what it really comes down to is, I think the best script in the book is tell me more. What it really comes down to, the biggest thing, it's really weird that I've probably created a whole business out of this, is training and teaching people how to be more curious and not settle for surface level responses.
Why is that, Robby? Why are you needing to get deeper into it? Why is the first answer not always the right answer or the full truth?
Yeah, I think it's very simply, the biggest reason is that person's afraid of you. And when people are afraid, we put our walls up. It's just like you or I, if we go to a car dealership or go to a furniture store. When we walk in and a salesperson walks up and they say, hey, what brought you out today, or something like that, even if I plan on spending $50,000 on a car or $10,000 on furniture, the thing I say is, oh, just checking some things out, right? And
I used to work at the Gap. Little shout out to the Gap. Only the good die young. We missed the Gap at West Acres.
But when I worked at the Gap, I was trained. You greet somebody and say, "Hey, what are you looking for today?" Right? Like, what are you shopping for? And everybody's response is what?
I'm just checking things out.
I'm just looking, right?
Looking, always. Yep.
And there's more to it, right?
So how do you pivot from somebody saying, "I'm just looking"? How do you pivot to actually figuring out what brought them in?
Yeah, it's just, first off, you can't believe that answer. That's the first thing you have to do as a salesperson, is recognize that that's almost always puffery or them taking a defensive
They're
stance.
afraid of you, as you said.
You.
Yep,
and
they don't trust you.
That's why we have to take this point of view that they are afraid. So that's the first thing. The second thing, though, is you have to acknowledge that they said that they were just looking. I think the biggest problem that we make is we just brush over and act like they said nothing, and then it sounds like you're ignoring what they just said. Now, you don't agree with it. You don't even really engage with it. You just simply say, hey, that totally makes sense. What has you looking? So you literally turn, like the simplest way to describe it is you take their answer and you turn it into a question, which is really the concept behind Tell Me More. And what we've traditionally seen is you do that a second time. What happens is people give you a little nugget of truth. Like, well, we're kind of thinking about getting a bedroom set. And then you say, oh, cool. Well, what kind of bedroom size are you looking
Stranger
at?
the car dealership. That's where my mind was.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, furniture store. Yeah. Or we're thinking about getting a large vehicle,
Yep.
right, if you're at a car dealership. And where really amateur salespeople go is like they push for that close, or like they try telling that person, you should check this out.
They'll immediately say, oh, you got to check out the new Tahoes or the new
Correct.
minivans. Like, these are unbelievable.
100%. I got the one for you. And what
Yep.
happens is that person just is like, they feel pushed, manipulated, all the old school things that make the common mantra regarding modern day salespeople. And what I'm really been teaching is simply just ask them questions like, well, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Turn their answer.
What's not right about your current vehicle?
Correct.
What do you need in your next vehicle? What's your timeline for when you want this?
100%.
Here's one of my favorite things, because people will say to us all the time in real estate, I'm just looking right now. You'll ask a bunch of questions. You'll find out more what they're looking for. And they'll say, I don't want to buy this year. I'll maybe wait until winter's over. And what do you say in that response? Because I think it's so gold.
Well, a couple different things. First off, I'd say, well, help me understand why next year. You know, what's important about next summer, right? I see clarity. But then what I always do is I'll always challenge it. And this is what's so interesting is in sales, most salespeople have taken challenging as meaning, I'm going to tell you to buy now because interest rates are great, or now's a great time. And if you feel that I'm pushing you to do something, you're going to want to push back.
Yeah.
Challenging is actually just a psychological principle where I will present an alternative that you haven't maybe considered yet. Something like, okay, so I hear you, you're thinking next summer, but if the perfect home were to come on the market maybe shortly after the first of the year, is that something you would consider viewing, or would you miss out on that opportunity? So all that's doing, it's shifting how they're viewing the same problem and looking at it from a different perspective. And a lot of time, I think, our job isn't to sell someone to go and do something. It's simply to unlock their desire that's already there, to see if they've considered other alternatives. And what's really funny about this is I think that one of the greatest ways you can provide value to people is simply help them unlock what do they actually want.
You're not forcing them to buy.
No, never.
You're simply giving them, hey, have you considered all these options? And you're doing so not by listing the options, but instead by helping them to self-discover.
Exactly.
Right?
And by doing so, then it's simply this. Tony Robbins once said, if you want to influence someone, find out what's already influencing them. And that's simply all this is simply predicated on is finding out what are the key things that they want, that they're desiring, and then you attach that and do the work to help them get it. And it's really not that hard. Resistance, frankly, goes out the window.
Yeah, we know that our jobs as real estate professionals when working with a consumer is not to force them into something. In fact, we coach our people, say they're working with that person, they now see a house that they want to go through. We actually spend our time talking about all the bad in the house instead of all the good.
100%.
Right? Our job is to try to talk people out of it, which is one of my favorite things that sets Hatch apart from any other company, as far as I know, is we are spending our energy and exhausting ourselves saying,
I don't think this place is a 10 out of 10, and let me share with you all the reasons. They're, of course, going to make the best decision for themselves at the end of the day, but our job is to actually try to make sure that they understand all the flaws that are there. My Tinder profile, if I ever had one, would simply say bald, ginger, love handles, all those things, right? It would just list off all the problems so somebody knew what they were getting themselves into, and that's what we want to do in real estate.
Well, I appreciate your transparency and honesty. I think to add to that, I think the very last thing I would say is that our jobs as really great salespeople is to never tell someone what to do. It is to present people with information, honest information, the truth, present alternatives and options, and point out as much facts as we can, and ask them which of those options.
yeah, we don't sell things, we solve problems.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, love it. Robby T,
Lead conversion coach to the stars, hugely influential, sitting in his house every day. Robby, love you. Folks, if you want to learn more about Hatch Coaching, go to hatchcoaching.com. Or, of course, you can see all the real estate available at hatchrealty.com.
See y'all.
Good work.